No matter how much time has passed, and this could stretch on for years since you last dated or since you had your last relationship, and since then you had gone on to build an amazing life for yourself. You have great career, you have amazing friendship circle, you have great social life, and just all around an enriching life. However, the moment you begin dating again, you start experiencing anxiety all over again. If this is you, then I would like you to watch this video until the end so you can find out why you're experiencing this, how you can put an end to this nightmare, and open up the doors to building a more fulfilling and enriching life for yourself. The fact is, we are never truly healed. As we age, we all tend to carry baggage from our past, especially if we have unhealed childhood trauma or trauma from past relationship or heartbreaks that never really gets addressed. And there is this notion that time and space heals everything. While this might be true to some extent, this reality is that some unhealed wounds remain stored in our body and will eventually show up again when faced with similar situation in the future. So if you have stayed single for so many years and you have worked on other areas of your life, however, you still find yourself struggling in your romantic connections, unfortunately, this will not change until you confront some of the issues, some of your unhealed wounds, and choose to do the inner work to heal your core woundings that would finally allow you to break free from those patterns that's been holding you back from having the life that you truly desire. My name is Vinaraji and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This channel is dedicated to discussing about childhood trauma, narcissistic abuse, healing attachment styles, something that I've worked through on my own over the last couple of years without any professional help. And I dedicate this channel to anyone and everyone who's currently on your healing journey, hoping that you can take away some information that I share on here wherever you are on your healing journey. And I hope that this would help you just as much as it did help me on my journey. Here is why this happens. When we move past a relationship that didn't work, we take time and space, eventually start keeping ourselves busy, as you should. We develop new habits, routines, take on new hobbies or interests, and while doing so, we aren't really dealing with the emotional struggles. When we are busy, we are channeling that mental energy on other areas of our lives. And this doesn't give us the time and space to connect with those difficult emotions. Because in order for you to be able to deal with your difficult, uncomfortable emotions, the one thing that you would need to do is to sit with that discomfort and confront those feelings. You have to grieve, and it's a very tedious, complex process. However, a lot of people do not have that liberty to do so. You have to get back to work, you have to pay bills, you've got to keep life going on, and eventually it gets to a point that you are so busy with everything that you're doing, you tend to leave this behind. You tend to forget about how you're feeling. Now what is happening here is you aren't necessarily dealing with that pain. Your idea, or rather your way of dealing with that circumstances, is to get busy, do other stuff. So eventually you forget that, and then you think you have moved on. You feel like you have healed and you feel more confident, you feel more secure, and you likely have done certain things like knowing what is it that you really look for, what is it that you would want in your next relationship. You would have learned to develop healthy boundaries, because maybe not having certain boundaries led you to dealing with certain emotional turmoils in that past relationship. Now, doesn't negate the fact that you had not actually took the time to grieve the loss of the connection, process those difficult emotions, see where you may have contributed in that relationship dynamic. What were your triggers? What was it that were not working for you? What you could have done better? So all this requires introspection. You need to turn inwards. You need to sit with your difficult, uncomfortable emotions and confront your inner demons. And to do that, this requires enormous amount of time and mental energy. Now, when this mental energy, time, is being channeled onto doing other things, which is just as important in your life, you tend to neglect doing that inner work and the healing. And let's be honest, a few years ago, no one has told us how to deal with heartbreak. We just know that once things end, we are told to get busy, keep ourselves busy, move on, do things you like, practice self-care. While all these things are definitely amazing, the real problem happens when the next time you try to get back into a romantic connection, you find yourself getting triggered again. You find yourself feeling anxious. You're experiencing all this emotional discomfort. It throws your nervous system into an overdrive, and you don't seem to understand where this is coming from, because to you, you had put in the time and effort into doing everything else for yourself. You have this perception that you have dealt with your past heartbreak. However, now when you're faced with a new partner in a romantic connection, all those emotional triggers from your past that wasn't really addressed is now coming to the surface. And instead of seeing it solely as a trigger, you tend to think that this person is, making you feel a certain way, instead of seeing that, this is something that's happened to you in the past, and maybe you're projecting your insecurities onto that person. So what can you do about this? How do you move forward and get into the dating scene while you still experience this emotional turmoil whenever you are confronted with a new connection? So the truth is, we can only heal relational trauma in the context of another relationship, because you will not experience any trigger when you are not in a romantic connection, because our romantic connection often mirrors our relationship that we had with our caregivers or parents when we were much younger, and it's also a trigger for our past relationships if we have not had certain needs unmet. And when you have experienced those unmet needs in the past relationships, you will not be able to experience these triggers outside of a romantic relationship. And that is why romantic connection can often bring out certain emotions and pain, emotional wounds that you may not even be aware of. You would have thought that you have moved past it, and you have happen to be secure and confident in other areas of your life. However, when you come into a context of a romantic relationship, suddenly you just start experiencing a lot of emotional discomfort, and you can't make sense out of it. Now, these triggers are an opportunity that shows you areas of your life that needs to be confronted and healed, so it does not keep ruining your chances at building a healthy and secure connection. Now, you will only be able to do this healing work in the context of a romantic relationship or connection. So if you remain single and avoid getting into a romantic connection, you will not be able to go through the healing process that is required, because you will not know which parts of you are still being triggered. However, keep in mind that there are work that needs to be done prior to getting into the dating scene. However, having the right awareness, the knowledge, and the right tools will help you to navigate around any challenges and conflicts that naturally happens in a relationship dynamic. So having the awareness will help you to recognize and catch yourself whenever you are faced with anxiety or emotional discomfort, so you are not quick to project your insecurities onto the other person. So what is the first awareness that you can have? Now, I would say having awareness first starts with understanding your own attachment style. This is an excellent tool because this allows you access to understanding your own patterns. Now, you can break it down and see what are the things that's affecting you, what are the things that you can tell that happens when you are in a romantic relationship. You can base it on your past relationships as well. So you can take note of your patterns and likely be more self-aware when you are presented with triggers from the new person that you are probably seeing or dating. Now, what happens here is that with the the information that you have access to right now, you will be able to do at least 50% of the healing work on your own. However, the remaining work can only be done in the context of a relationship. And now this is where your partner comes into the picture. Because when you know where your triggers are coming from, when you are more aware of your patterns, you will have the right skills and tool to hold space and have that open and honest communication to share about your patterns, your triggers, ultimately about your needs in a relationship. And again, this will definitely require a certain level of vulnerability. So that is why you actually have to first do the work on your own, because until you had not done the work, if you're not aware of your own patterns, your triggers, and where this might be coming from, you will not actually understand, and you would always assume that it's another person's fault for making you feel a certain way, and that would not be fair to the other person. Now, why triggers are always not about the other person? Triggers are a way of letting you know about some underlying past experiences that you haven't really dealt with. And oftentimes, these triggers aren't really about the other person. They could be doing something they don't even know would have an impact on you. And However, if you are not aware of your own triggers, you will end up projecting it onto your new partner. That would create conflict and sabotage the connection. Now, here's an example. If, let's say, you have been cheated on in your last relationship, or maybe your partner was dishonest or did something that broke your trust, naturally you are going to have fears around trust, and these emotions and your past experiences are valid. So there is a very valid reason for you to feel the way you do. So going to be a little bit reluctant, and if you have these fears, you are somehow going to be scanning for a little threat from the new partner. So let's say the current person that you're dating happens to display some of the behaviors that reminds you of your last relationship. Let's say, for example, maybe the new person tends to put their phone facing down. Now, this is going to trigger your past experience of being cheated on from your previous relationship. So here's how we can look at it. You can expand your worldview on this. Now, instead of jumping into conclusion and assuming that they have malicious intent behind those behavior, you might want to take a step back and become aware of your trigger. Your trigger here is now seeing this new person putting the phone facing down, and you are now being reminded of some of the things that has happened to you in the past relationship when someone was being dishonest to you or when you were cheated on. So instead of assuming and jumping into the conclusion, what you want to do here is to approach with caution. You might want to confront the new person, and perhaps you can actually say that, hey, this is something that I had experienced before. So you are essentially going in there talking about something that you had experienced, which has been really hurtful to you, and how it's caused you emotional discomfort. And you can also gently then express to them that, when I see you putting your phone facing down, it just, kind of reminds me of what happened the last time. And then you can also ask them, like, is there any reason, or are they feeling uncomfortable with you? So you want to allow them the space to give you a response. Now let's see how they respond, and this can happen for various reasons. Sometimes people just do it out of habit. Now I have this habit of putting my phone face down when I'm out with people, just meeting friends or anyone in general, just because I don't want to get distracted by notifications. I don't have any ill intent behind that, and sometimes I would put it down just because I just don't want to be bothered. And for some people, especially if you're just getting to know someone new, well, there's going to be a little bit of awkwardness around that because you just don't want someone new snooping around your phone. So it really could be something along those lines. So instead of assuming that they have malicious intent, or they are actually doing the same thing that someone did to you in the past, you want to open up that conversation and tell that person that this is something that reminds you of something that's hurt you before, and you just want to see where we are at, and if something that they would like to share with you, and you can clear the air. Now, someone that is respectful and cares for your feelings would want to do everything in their capacity to make you feel comfortable. So probably they will change their approach around putting the phone facing down, or I don't know, really. It might be different for everyone. Now, if the other person doesn't quite really care about how that affects you, and if they would continue to display similar behaviors, then that is definitely a cause for concern, and you might want to take a step back and reassess if this is a connection that is worth pursuing. So what you're doing here is you are really breaking that pattern of falling back into that suspicion and getting really anxious and projecting it onto the other person. Now, instead of doing all those things, you are taking a more secure approach, and that is going to help you to build that connection. Now, in a case of someone that means well for you, this is going to help you to build a more honest, secure connection, and this could just bring you both closer in the long term. In order for you to heal your anxiety in your relationship, you have to do the basic level of work. You need to do some level of healing on your own, and it is important to understand your fears, your insecurities, and become hyper aware when you're feeling anxious or getting triggered. And this is especially the case if you're more anxiously attached. You want to understand what might trigger you, if you have a certain repeating patterns that you're showing in your connections, especially in your romantic connections. Now, understanding your own patterns will help you to navigate around how you connect and relate to other people, especially with romantic connections, and you can start doing so without the feeling of shame and guilt, because you are aware these behaviors are coming from your unhealed trauma. So you now have better understanding of why you have these patterns, and trust yourself that you are able to work through these patterns to develop a more secure attachment style to build a healthy, thriving connection for the future. So as long as you're committed to yourself, as long as you go in with some knowledge and some level of work done on yourself, while this will not be a smooth sailing journey, because it is also important the kind of people that you let into your life, who you are allowing, and how they are also showing up for you plays a part as well. However, understanding your own patterns, understanding your attachment, knowing what your triggers are, and asking for your needs to be met will give you some level of leverage into that connection, so that you do not end up projecting your fears, your insecurities onto the other person. Because what happens is, a lot of times we tend to do this to someone that means well, because we just don't seem to have the right tools and skills to navigate around these conflicts. Or I hope that you find this video helpful, and thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to hit like and subscribe, and do follow me to help me grow my channel, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye now.